Alright, everybody. So, Democratic presidential candidate Cory Booker is blowing a lot of hot air about gun violence. And sources in support of him have such cited as the Gun Violence Archive. That they didn't mention the fact that the Gun Violence Archive, while highly factual, counts more than just gun violence as in violent crimes. It also counts perpetrators shot by police, suicide, and accidents, thusly artificially buffing the numbers somewhat. This is not done to be deceptive. This is done so the Gun Violence Archives can record everything, not just violent murder. It also records police incidents and so forth. Cory Booker is another Democrat that is just, forcing the whole gun issue, citing places like Chicago and such. The article currently states that he published his presidential plan to cut gun violence. There were two shootings in his state of New Jersey in which 2 people were injured. Across America, that day alone, there were 71 shootings in which 14 died and dozens were wounded. According to the Gun Violence Archive, a non-profit research organization, as I mentioned them earlier, it reckons. Was this article written by a Southerner, or is that not just exclusively a Southerner thing? That so far this year, guns have killed 4,764 Americans, including 873 teenagers. Which sounds like a lot until you realize how large the U.S. population is, and that compared to the total population, that's actually quite small. Including 873 teenagers and 196 children. Yes, admittedly, very young. That is terrible. But let me put it to you this way. Taking the guns away is not going to fix that, because the guns is a symptom of the problem, not the cause. Think about what happened to England when they took the guns away there. London knife crime. The problem is not guns, it's criminal behavior, it's criminal recidivism. You take away the guns, they'll just use something else. Plus it drives the guns underground and creates a black market where criminals can just buy guns on the black market. So even if a good guy with a gun doesn't stop a bad guy with a gun, you're still doing nothing that actually prevents guns from falling into the hands of criminals. They'll still get guns. It is ineffectual. And if you look at examples in history, all gun control does is just make it easier for the government to subjugate and abuse its citizens. Look at Meiji-era Japan. Look at England. Look at the early colonial period of America. It's the same everywhere. And it always will be. It is not a method of keeping people safe. It is a method of controlling people. Now, this article doesn't really go into Cory Booker's plan much, on the account that they want me to pay for a membership. Let's see if I can find you a here. Okay, here we go. Here's what he has to say for himself. I am tired of going to funerals where parents are burying their children, and so I am going to bring a fight. We are going to bring a fight like the NRA has never seen. If they're going to defend corporate gun manufacturers more than represent us people, we are going to bring that fight on every level necessary. I'm a guy that has taken on tough fights before and won them, and this is one that we are going to win it together. He said this while replying to a question from an audience member, Rachel, who'd expressed feeling terrified when she sent her daughter off to start kindergarten early this year. She was asked, "I was terrified to send my daughter to school when she began kindergarten this year. It's devastating that my 6-year-old had to be taught how to hide and stay quiet in case someone came to her school to shoot people. How can we talk about being free in this country when we have to leave each day in fear of gun violence in schools? places of worship, concerts, and even from law enforcement. What is your plan to ensure our safety and freedoms? Do people just go randomly shooting up random kindergartens? I think this woman seems a little loose in the head, if you catch my meaning. And he partly responded by saying, yeah, Booker didn't point out to Rachel that that freedom comes with the unfortunate but inexorable risk that someone might abuse his or her freedom to hurt others. It's a risk that the Founding Fathers chose to accept because they knew that without freedom, America would be no different than any other nation on earth at the time. But Booker didn't point this out. See, instead, he amplified her fear by tenfold, according to this article. The fear that you're feeling is something that we see in Americans now, who fear going to their house of worship, who fear going to concert, and it is so horrific that in America we have the aggregate a mass shooting every day because dozens of people are shot and killed. They go further to say that was a bold-faced lie, one that's been trotted out by Democrats for years, as noted by the left-wing news magazine Mother Jones back in 2015. Democrats and the media have a habit of wildly inflating statistics to mislead the public and drum up support for their gun control proposals. Even as these mass shootings have grown more frequent and loom large in our consciousness, they are a tiny fraction of America's gun violence and remain relatively rare. Yet many news outlets keep declaring that there have been upwards of 355 mass shootings this year, or more than one mass shooting per day. Many gun control advocates say the same. Well, yeah, what they do is they buff their statistics by including things like suicide and police firings and accidental firings, but don't mention that those are what they are. They try to include it with statistics and lump it in and hope no one notices. That's usually what they do. They want gun control to better control the people. That's what it's all. Any form of weapon control in history, that's what it has always been. Plain and simple. Cory Booker is just another typical gun control touting Democrat. Don't vote for him. I understand if you think me digging up articles in the middle of the video makes me look like I know less than I do, but trust me. This was just a refresher. Alright? I wanted to find specific information. I was already familiar with Cory Booker. I was already quite familiar. But anyway, just don't fall for the trap. I understand the left likes to make these compelling appeals to emotion that everyone likes to hear. But it's usually designed to manipulate you into voting for what they want, which is usually more personal political power. Don't want to believe me? Fine. Do it. But guess what happens? It ends up I being right. Don't come crying back to me. Anyway.